Welcome back. This video that we're going to discuss today is going to be on attention and attention deficit. Once again, my name is Betsy DeVega, and I'm the founder and head of school at KnILE Center.
And I'm Lindsay Asawa, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist with the Center for Couples and Families.
And we really hope everybody fared well during the hurricane. We're so sorry about the hiccups. We will be making up the last workshop in November, so we'll give you those dates as soon as we know them. We will be doing a brown bag session on attention in October. It'll be October 6th from 11:30 to 1, and we'll get the information out to you guys just as soon as possible. But we just wanted to kind of talk today about squirrel moments. I'm sure you've heard that saying before. In the many phases of attention and focus, and when to be concerned and when to know when it's true attention deficit. So I know some of the things that I notice sometimes with the kiddos is it could be many factors that affect their attention and focus. Environment's one of them. If there's a death in the family, divorce, and I'm talking the negative stuff, but there's also positive stuff. They may move. A new doggy, a new baby.
Changes, just life changes and stressors, can absolutely affect attention.
It can definitely make a difference. Family dynamics. It may just be that you're a very busy family, and so your kiddo can only handle so much. Dietary. Sometimes when you have allergies or sensitivities to certain foods, that can affect your focus and attention. It can also affect it even if you have attention deficit. As I mentioned earlier in another video, my daughter has attention deficit. And when she was little, I could not give her cupcakes or Coke because she would be little Spider-Man and bouncing off the wall. So it can kind of go together. Could be a cognitive weakness. So there's a lot of different things. Sleep can put, absolutely.
Really affects attention skills.
Absolutely. So there are other ways that attention is affected. And one of the things that I know I hear, and Lindsay, I think you and I talked about this, is, when I'm talking to a parent sometimes, and they'll go, oh, but at home, they can focus on a video game forever. They can watch TV forever, so they don't have any kind of attention issues. But I'm getting complaints at school. Well, anybody that loves what they're doing is going to be able to focus or hyper-focus sometimes.
Right, exactly.
But you got to look at it across the board. So when is it that you need to be concerned? And that's where Lindsay's going to come in with her expert advice on when to look.
Right. So, every child and every adult struggles with attention at times. We all do. And so the point at which to be concerned is when it becomes, like you're saying, kind of across the board. It's a concern across settings. It's affecting schoolwork. It's affecting relationships, affecting behavior, and becomes more severe than what we would expect for the average person. So those are kind of the factors that we look for. And some of the symptoms of ADHD or ADD are, there's attention symptoms, inattentive symptoms, so things like not being able to focus, of course, but also lack of organizational skills, lack of motivation, just getting off task, getting easily distracted. Daydreaming, yes. And then you have hyperactive impulsive symptoms, which are kind of the other category. And so things like having difficulty staying seated and acting impulsively without thinking, just constantly moving, constantly fidgeting, yes. Kids that are always running and darting from one place to the next, never walking carefully. In fact, with those kids, we also see a lot of injuries and a lot of accidents. So those are just a few of the symptoms. There's many others. One that's a less commonly known symptom of ADHD is actually emotion dysregulation. So kids with this diagnosis really have trouble regulating their emotions, which means they react impulsively when they have strong emotions because they have a hard time coping with those emotions, but then they also have trouble coping with even boredom because they experience that as an emotion. So for them, it's just overwhelming and they can't stand to be bored. So that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize is the symptom of ADHD.
Right.
Some of the things that we do when we are assessing ADHD, because it is something that can be caused by so many different factors, anxiety can be something that can look like ADHD. Depression can as well. Lack of sleep, medications can cause symptoms of ADHD, like you're saying, dietary changes or factors. And so we have to make sure that it's a thorough assessment. So it's not something that you can just go in, have a brief conversation with someone, and they can make that diagnosis on the spot. You really have to dig a little deeper. We need to get a thorough history of the child or the adult. We need to get multiple sources of information, not just one. So we need to hear from parents. We need to hear from, if it's an adult, from significant others or spouses. We need to hear from teachers. We need to be able to observe the child and watch them respond and interact. And then we have specific tests that are designed to assess ADHD symptoms. So there's some computer tests that help us to assess attention skills. And then IQ testing, intellectual or cognitive testing can be really useful because we can look for different types of cognitive weaknesses that are pretty common in kids with ADD or ADHD, like working memory and processing speed and executive functioning differences. Yeah, and so those are different ways that we can assess in addition to getting parent report and teacher report and some of these other things.
And if I can add to that, because that's one thing that when I do talk to parents, and again, I said this the last video, make sure you go to the professional. This is a behavioral psychological concern, so definitely go to your PCP to get the right person or resource, but make sure you go to a psychologist or diagnostician. One thing I hear a lot of when I ask parents is they'll say, well, we just got the questionnaire. The questionnaire by itself can be a little subjective, because if you get somebody that had a hard year with your child, they may say all negative things. Or, you know what, as parents, we may be so overprotective that we're going to say all positive things and not see the negative. So it's important, like she said, to see, I think, so many different
you just
aspects.
need as many sources of information as possible. Even two parents can give completely different reports on one child. So it's helpful to get all of that information and to go to someone who is going to seek all of that information.
One thing that I also tell parents is true attention deficit is a chemical imbalance. Am I wrong in saying that?
You're right.
Yeah, so it needs chemical to fix it. So of course we absolutely don't want the kiddos to have medication if they don't need it, but there are times where it's the best case for them, because you don't want them getting themselves into trouble later in life with the impulse control and stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. And it is a case by case basis,
of course,
but it is something that we know is caused by lack of stimulation in the brain. It's a neurological difference in the brain. And so you just have to know that it is kind of an uphill battle because it is a medical condition. And so the medication is certainly the most direct and right now the most effective treatment for ADHD. There are additional treatments and interventions that are really helpful and really effective. And for kids with more mild symptoms, sometimes medication is not always necessary. And so it's something that I think parents need to be open-minded and get a good assessment done and have a good conversation with the doctor about options for your child, and be open to whatever might be the most helpful
to the child.
To the child.
Yeah. Like the true attention deficit that doesn't have these other faces that we're talking about. I really don't know too many people that aren't highly successful as adults that have that. I mean, those are your CEOs, those are your entrepreneurs, those are your bigwigs. They're the ones that can multitask and do so many different things because their brain's constantly going.
They have so many ideas. They're, like you said, good multitaskers, very energetic, very social, typically very social.
People, without a doubt.
And so there's so many good qualities that kind of go along with this diagnosis that get overlooked.
They really, and because they're risk takers, yes, that can be a negative. If it's not under control, but it can be a very positive because in order to have your own business, you kind of have to do that leap of faith, right?
Right.
And so those risk takers are the ones that do really well.
Yes, exactly.
They're not afraid. They'll, you know what? They're not afraid of failure.
Yes.
We'll move on. So yeah, there's so many people out there. I'm sure if you look at all these guys that are and women, that are very, very, very successful, most of them probably have some.
With this diagnosis, exactly. Yeah.
So we will be talking, I think, in much more detail about this at the workshop. Answer your questions. Like we said last time, we want this to be casual. We want it to be an open forum. Answer some of your questions, kind of talk about the educational side and the psychological side, so that you have as much information as you can to help your baby. So
yeah, and we'll go into some of those treatment options and bring some examples of things that are helpful for these kids and some resources for parents that I think can be really helpful.
Absolutely. So we hope you have an amazing rest of your day. We look forward to seeing you guys October 6th, I think. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, thanks.